staying on the path that I've chosen, straight up, come my way, and I'll see you at the top. 'Cause something's gonna happen in this story.
What's your name?
Gillian.
Gillian. And you are traveling with your two children?
A 10-year-old son and a 5-year-old daughter.
Awesome.
Well, I have always been a traveler, and the children started traveling with me pretty early, but we didn't travel in an RV, and there came a point where I stopped a business that I was doing and changed the status of my marriage, and it was just the right time for us to actually hit the road. So I started looking around for something, and here we are.
So you are raising your two kids on the road on your own?
Yes.
And traveling on your own and figuring it all out as you go?
Yes, exactly.
That is awesome. So what have some of the challenges been with it?
Well, the challenges change all the time. I mean, when I first started off, I was the type of person, I got on the road and I did not even know how to plug in. So I had to look at the other people in the RV parks. So in the beginning, there was a very steep learning curve in terms of the vehicle and the home part of the motorhome. And now I'm feeling much more comfortable with that, to the point that I took out my generator because I hardly used it and didn't want the weight, and it was too loud in any case, and I started doing things that I was feeling much more comfortable to do. So every step of the way, it's kind of like parenting, things change and you have to get accustomed to a new set of challenges.
About it.
It's a Class C, so there's a bed over the driver's seat, and that was one of the big things that worked for me. And it's only 21 feet, so I actually can take it into town. I park it anywhere I want. I've parked on narrow city streets. The Class A's tend to be a bit wider, so I can park in narrow places, come out at tight spots, and it's not really noticeable. So, you can park anywhere you want pretty much. It's a little tight for us, and as we spend more time on the road, it's feeling a little tighter, but I don't want to get anything much longer. So this is we use it, but we also use a lot of the facilities at campgrounds. And this is my son and my daughter.
Mommy!
Yes, honey. One
second.
second. Always had a kind of atypical work career in any case, so it wasn't, once again, for me it wasn't like a sharp shift from 9 to 5 onto something more flexible. I have been self-employed for many years, but I did have a business for 3 years, and I had an organic shop, and the shop became a cooperative about 6-7 months before we started traveling, and the cafe became somebody else's. So, and I sold a piece of land, so I've been kind of using those funds to go for a while, and now I've been doing projects, but just not really with financial compensation, with other things, but and so on. So now I'm at a point where I'm looking to see what would be the most useful financially compensated activity to do.
Right. Are there any things that you're considering right now?
Well, I write a lot, and so finding a way to monetize my writing is one of the things. I used to do a lot of health consulting, but after I had an extremely busy shop for 3 years and did a lot of kind of casual, paid and unpaid consulting in that, I was burnt out, and I didn't want to do any for money health consulting, but I might actually start doing it now, body awareness stuff. I like doing things like what people call weight loss or weight gain or body reshaping and things like that. So I'm ready to do that now, a little bit. But writing really is where I think a lot of my income is going to come. And I've already started writing a couple of articles for magazines. Just one of the memorable threads that goes through the whole thing for me is that even while there may be people stereotyping me, I also stereotype people. And as I travel around, I've really learned that it's useless because it doesn't even work. So especially traveling as a black woman, single woman with children and with a foreign accent, you have certain ideas about how people will approach you, and it has just not been the case. I mean, I've been in the smallest, most rinky-dink places in the middle of swamps where nobody has probably gone more than 10 miles away from their home, and the level of helpfulness and people volunteering to give you a hand. I was on the highway, not a highway, like a little small town with my hood up. People pull over to ask what's happening and if they can help you. So the most memorable thing I think for me, and I try to really make sure my children are aware of it also, and they are, is that people are actually not to be suspected before you actually deal with them. So we've made tons of lovely friends. I belong to couch surfing, and I don't know if you know of that, but I mean, we stop at couch surfers, we go to activities, we've stayed by one person in Tallahassee twice, and those are strangers who instantly become your friends. And I've kind of always had that attitude with my children. They're like, oh, you just spoke to a stranger. My daughter was with me with that the other day. I don't know where she got it. I was like, well, you know, as soon as you speak to them, they're no longer strangers. And because we'd always unschooled, and because I'd always been self-employed, and because we'd always traveled a lot, this was just a different way to do it. Now, granted, when I hit the road this last time, coming from Florida about a week ago, I started thinking about, well, you know something? This doesn't feel freeing in the same way. And so what it made clear to me was that even when you're doing this thing that potentially is such a freeing experience, that you have to be constantly reevaluating it. I think that's what you do with marriage, with friendship, with jobs, with anything. And you can't take for granted that the thrill that you had in the beginning, if you did certain things, is going to be the same thrill. And so for me, part of it is that what you have to constantly do is look at it. Think, not so much, my goals are not so much like where I want to go. They are how I want to feel and how I want my children to feel. And you have to think about, okay, well now what is required for that feeling? I think you have to not think too much before you do it. I think that, to me, is kind of critical. I know they're different personalities, so some people tend to take many, many years. But with this and with several other kind of daring projects that I've done, when I start the project, lots of people come up to me and they say, I've been planning that for years, and I think that when you do that, you can run into some serious delays, and it's all never the right time. I think sometimes you have to really just relax and jump in.
Like